Join us for a driving review of the new Id4, the new electric SUV by Volkswagen. Let's go! In the front we can see a very friendly, likable face inspired by the former Beetle design. LED main headlamp unit is standard, and option you can also get matrix LED, and then you also have not only the daytime running light in the top part, but also the turning indicator goes all the way across this, otherwise it's a little bit more subtle. The length is at 4 meters 58, 15 foot or 180 inches. Honey yellow is this vehicle color here, but we can also show you the blue dusk. And then there's also a dark gray or a white vehicle for you. 16 centimeters or 6 inches is the ground clearance, so somewhat soft off-road capable. Wheels come from 18 to 21 inch. These here are the 20-inch wheels, already look quite massive, so it's a high trim vehicle for today. Crossover cladding, you can see it right there. Base suspension for this vehicle here today, which has a setting to make it stiffer, sportier, that's possible. In the rear, big VW logo in this new retro styling and ID4 lettering. Then again, this crossover look for the lower part and the light strip that goes all over the vehicle. If you have the elaborated matrix LED function, you also then get a more elaborated rear lighting here in this 3D style. And when you activate the turning indicators, they are then in the rear also cascading. There is no frunk whatsoever, but some of the parts are stored here in the front. You can also refill wiper fluid and so on. It gives us time to talk about the specs. Either 52 kilowatt hour battery or 77 kilowatt hour battery. That's the bigger pack then. And the horsepower figures for the smaller one, 148 or 170 horsepower. The bigger battery maybe also will come with a 175 horsepower spec. What is clear that also this year today, 204 horsepower. The electric motor, however, is in the rear. It's a rear-wheel driven platform. However, we also expect then an all-wheel drive model that's already announced with about 300 horsepower, which is then dual motor, also one then in the front, and this will also give us better acceleration. This one here today, the 204 horsepower spec, around 8.5 seconds to 1 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. And the top speed is 160 kilometers an hour or 100 miles per hour. Recharging for the small battery, 7.2 kilowatt AC. For the big battery, 11 kilowatt AC. And for the small battery, 100 kilowatt DC. For the big battery, 125 kilowatt DC. And the official range stated for the big battery, 520 kilometers or 320 miles. For the small battery, it would be more like 350 kilometers or 220 miles. However, considering here, now today, freezing temperatures and also wet, we also drove a little bit faster from time to time, the realistic range in this condition for the big battery is rather the official one of the small battery. So energy consumption here in our test today, about 23 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers. That's not that efficient. However, bear in mind that we did use the heating and so on. This car does have a heat pump here in this max version, or optional for the other ones. But still, it could be a little bit more efficient, I think. Now let's take a look at the interior. Door handles are integrated like this. They do not move. You just have something of a feedback from the from the inside, underneath right here, door closing sound. It's actually quite solid. Then inside of the doors, a brown leatherette in this styling here. Then it is not hard, but not super soft, somewhat soft touchy at the inside of the doors and the front. Here, the controls for the side mirrors, you really have to fine-tune them, so it's not that intuitive, and you usually have to look at this to switch from right to left mirror. I'm not sure if that's really a good development. Here, these high gloss piano lacquer plastic elements, not the biggest fan of that. However, the rest of the interior, soft touch dashboard. Steering wheel looks fancy with these capacitive buttons, but more to that soon. In the base version, the steering wheel would come animal free. If you go for the higher trim version or the travel assist, then it automatically comes in animal skin wrap. However, they're also developing an alternative solution to that. As for the seats, they always come animal free in all versions, either fabric base, or then this year the option with microfiber on the inside and leatherette on the outside. This is then the base seat with the separated head restraint. Base seat form, again, option with the microfiber surface, but there's also a sports seat available with the integrated head restraint. So nice visual job for the seats, definitely. There are also the Ergo Active seats here with the memory function and also massage function. So seating comfort, I can really tell you already right now, is actually really good. So as for these seats here, very comfortable, premium look and also premium feeling. You can also put the lower surface here, lower area a little bit longer. With 1.86 or 6'1", if I put it in the lowest position, still have a lot of headroom here. Interior overview, basically a clean visual design, also nicely with this decoy element, soft touch dashboard right there. Then the steering wheel with capacitive buttons. This is somewhat, it looks cool and it's also illuminated. But here, a little bit complicated to control it with the capacitive function. When the ignition is off, then it's actually, there's nothing happening. But when I really turn the car on, then I have like a acoustic and also haptic feedback. And then there are these two steps on the left side for 10 and 1 kilometer steps, plus and minus, for example. Hard to control while driving. Whereas on the right side, I can change a little bit of the view in these small digital instruments, 5.3 inch, and also for the sound, for example. Then to these 5.3 inch digital instruments, right here you can make the assistance system a little bit bigger, or than the GPS information, for example, but not too much to change right there. The gears are put in like this for D or B, higher recuperation mode, backwards for the reverse, and P, then again, click it on the right side for the park mode. It's a nice clicking sound here. And you can also see in the front then, it's always resonating, somewhat talking to you, visualization in the front part of the vehicle. Whereas, for example, when you turn left or right, it's like, going from left to right, also this separate light right there. Very interesting. Sorry, not driving now. So, and then on the right side here, what we can see is the temperature slider is right here, and it's not too easy to control while driving. You can click on that or slide. Here's a volume slider, and on the left side you mute the music, for example. There are some hotkeys here in the lower part, for example, to access the climate menu right there, assistant systems, and also the driving modes. This car here is not equipped with the DCC. Volkswagen says, however, it is a somewhat adaptive suspension. What we actually realized while driving is that here, when you go from comfort to sports mode, then it's like with the VW Polo. It's like a fixed sports mode or a fixed comfort mode, these two settings. But that's not like the DCC is working. But so far, in the comfort mode, suspension actually did quite well. As for the infotainment system here, it's either 10-inch or this one here, 12-inch. This is the bigger screen then, optional or included in the top trim levels. So actually quite big and easy to read. GPS like this, and you see the responsiveness is not present, I would call it that way. So, and sometimes you even have freezing displays. At this moment, the system is working, but we always, also had situations where it was completely not reacting at all, and then you're stuck with, whatever. As for the rear seating area, first of all, inside of the doors, this is the hard pack here. Maybe for this segment would have been cooler with a soft touch as well, but here is then soft for the leatherette where you put your elbow or something. Then you can see the middle tunnel. There is no rear middle tunnel, electric building platform. That's of course good, so it looks already quite spacious. And then when you have the microfiber option, here you also have it on the rear seats. And it's also interesting, you have a lot of possibilities to install some child seats. You have ISOFIX on the outsides each, but also the middle part, they say, could fit another child seat, not with ISOFIX though. And there's even ISOFIX on the co-driver seat, by the way, in the front. So a lot of possibilities right there. Then getting inside, and good thing is here, you have enough legroom right here. So that's actually quite good. Good package. As for the headroom, the bench is not too low. So headroom-wise, for tall people, it gets close. It works, It works. Again, 1.86 m, 6'1", but it's getting close. And now to the trunk area. Electric hatch is standard, like this. And yeah, looks like very well usable. 543 liters up to 1,575 liters with folded seats. That's 19 cubic feet to maximum of 56 cubic feet. And you can see here, you can fold this up here, and then you have space for the charging cables underneath. I'm not sure if that's the most practical space. Quite often, EV users just let it just lie in the trunk here somewhat. And you can see when I put some luggage inside, it also fits here in the vertical way still. That's possible. Welcome to Thomas's electric driving lounge. And here we put in the drive mode, and we also see here in the front this so-called IQ light also, is somehow trying to communicate with you. And well, that throttle pedal is quite sensitive, so it's actually a very immediate response. Of course, with electric vehicles, always instant torque, but yeah, that's the GPS. And now there's one very important thing about this vehicle. So, for example, now I'm in driving moderation. I try to mute the GPS, try to access the GPS,
now turn right onto
and nothing is happening. That's really cool, by the way. Here, see here, when I need to turn right, was signaling me in the light. And also I have the augmented reality head-up display, which is somewhat in two layers. So there's one layer with the speed and also GPS information, which is closer to me, like they say, it's about a couple of meters. And then the arrows that are displayed somewhat on the road, where to turn right or left, is more like 10 meters away. So in a second layer and more far away. And I think that's a very interesting solution, but it's always the same problem with this vehicle. See here, I basically have a GPS infotainment system freeze. I can't do anything about it. Also here, when I try to change the driving modes, I can access it because there's the hotkey in the lower part, but then here I cannot press anything. So, and that's the thing. And at some point you might think, it's a prototype vehicle, it's one of the first vehicles. Yes, that's true. But we have had same or equal problems with the VW Golf, with the Id4, and so on and so on. And so you can also enjoy the voice commands here of the GPS system for today. Hardware-wise, the car is absolutely excellent. Low center of gravity. This 500 kilograms of the battery, 500 kilograms, really low inside the vehicle, and that means we have very sporty driving characteristic, although we are driving an SUV. That makes it actually sportier than it looks. We don't have the DCC, the dynamic chassis control, for today, so no adaptive suspension. However, Volkswagen told us that there's again this very interesting signal that you can use visually, really cool. Wow, and when accelerating here out of the corners, just phenomenal. Really great how that feels. And here we can also do acceleration, wet road, rear-wheel drive, and we do 0 to 70 kilometers an hour. Let's just pin it down. plop, that's it, 70 kilometers an hour. And to 100 kilometers or 60 miles an hour is about 8.5 seconds. Here for the 204 horsepower version with a bigger battery, and that's more than enough. And good traction there from the rear-wheel drive. Also felt really secure. So this is really cool, you know. So the whole hardware of the vehicle is really excellent. Sporty driving feeling. It's a lot of fun. The steering here is really precise. So no dead zone area, no matter in which angle. And you don't have to steer that much. You can keep both hands at the steering wheel all the time. And now when I'm in this turning circle, you can also take a look at that. Wow, really spontaneous acceleration. So it really almost feels like a, you know, like a performance car or something. You know, really cool. There you go. That's a lot of fun. Here, you know, a little bit left and right. Such a precise feeling for the car. So remember that space-wise, we more have like a Tegon all space from the inside as for the space you can use. But driving-wise, it more feels like a Golf GTI or something, you know. So again, low center of gravity, spontaneous acceleration from the electric drive. It's just a lot of fun to steer this one here around. Noise insulation is actually very good. So there's not too much noise from the outside, although, you know, it's really not a nice weather outside. So this rain and wind and everything, the road is wet and so on. And usually it's the case that it's really loud then on the inside of the cabin in these conditions. But here it's remaining really, really silent. So together with the silent electric drive, it's a very, very pleasing driving experience. So relaxing. These seats are also great. You know, the optional microfiber seats. Seat formable, the same in the base seat. Option, you can go for the sport seats, as we told you earlier, but they're both very comfortable. I can go from a D mode to the B mode. That's the stronger recuperation mode. And then there's just rolling when you leave your foot on the throttle a little bit. When you then lift your foot off the throttle, there's recuperation. The car is decelerating. However, I have to say that the recuperation strength is not that strong as you would expect. So just came here to drive this one in the Tesla Model S, just to compare that one. And the recuperation with the Teslas, for example, is way stronger. So the B mode here is actually done that you can do this one pedal driving, but is it strong enough that you really can always go with one pedal driving? I wouldn't be so sure about that. More or less, yes. I mean, we can test it here. Now I'm getting off the throttle.
Now turn left towards Braunschweig.
And yeah, now I have to apply the brakes. Even more recuperation then, yeah, but you see that the recuperation is not the strongest. You can always argue what is good and what is bad. So I guess what's the idea behind this is here. Volkswagen, I mean, majority of their customers have not driven electric vehicles yet. So they want to have a smoother transition. With Tesla, you know, it's an all new thing. You know, most people who buy Teslas, buy Teslas for the very, very first time, you know, for the very, very first time in the brand. And then it's something completely new and you just adapt to something new. And here probably they want to make it a little bit more pleasing to their existing customers, that they don't have like a big transition, you know. So here not a strong recuperation, at least, I mean, there is good recuperation possible, yes, but not just with leaving your foot off the throttle. It's really more that you hit the brakes then. And I think if you're not used to harsh recuperation, I mean, I've seen people driving electric vehicles for the first time with strong recuperation, and then they just leave the foot off the throttle, and suddenly everyone's like, ugh! What's going on? Because there's a strong recuperation, you know? So in this case, this is here a little bit smoother. But to me, I think an electric vehicle should always have a mode where you can just use the one pedal driving feeling. And that's indeed not the case right here. So driving wise, I really have to say, nice acceleration. The rear wheel drive gives it a sporty feeling. Turning circle at 10.2 meters is really narrow because of rear wheel drive also, and because of the whole architecture. Rear wheel drive, is better for the turning circle because the front wheels can be turned, further as for the degree angle. So that's a good thing. Once again, like the ID3, this platform, MEB platform, how you feel the chassis stiffness, the noise insulation, that's a thing, for example, that is way better than with Tesla. This car, chassis-wise and driving-wise, feels so much more elaborated. You feel there's like 50 years of engineering experience in that vehicle here, especially as for the hardware parts. Like here, accelerate a little bit more, lane change. Wow, it's excellent. Now 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, lane change here. I mean, it's wet road, and I feel like I could immediately go to the Nordschleife with this vehicle, and it's a family electric SUV. It drives so agile, so sporty. It's so much fun to drive this car. I mean, from the outside, it looks like, not very sporty. It's more like this little bit Beetle-alike design, round, friendly, like pop culture oriented or something. And then suddenly you start driving this vehicle and say, like, am I in a sports car? So that's really very, very well done. I can just stress that again. So that it's electric even contributes to that, of course, again, because the weight of the battery is not negative but more positive for the car. Instantaneous acceleration, and again, it's really so silent and relaxing. So you can have a very nice and sporty driving experience with this vehicle, but at the same time, you can also drive in a very, very relaxed manner. This car can indeed do both. Yeah, the only thing they can't do is software. And now to our conclusion for today with the Volkswagen ID4. Round and friendly face from the exterior, more this Beetle-like design. On the interior you have a lot of space and also especially great seats from these two different forms, normal and sport seats. Also all seats, no matter which material you have, all animal-free. For the steering wheel, base version, yes, animal-free. Upgrade steering wheel with travel assist, no. Expecting a different solution there later. But overall, the whole interior is actually quite likable and very well usable. Biggest weakness of this vehicle is the infotainment system, the software. It's too slow, sometimes it's failing, they need to fix it. I think it is possible, and the thing is the hardware of the vehicle is really excellent. Especially the driving agility is flawless. The stiffness of the chassis is great, low center of gravity. Although it doesn't look that sporty, it drives like a sports car. It's so much fun to steer it around. Great steering input. Great forward drive, rear wheel drive, that feels also quite sporty, out of the corners and so on. A lot of driving fun, so I really hope they can also improve on the software. The same we had also as a finding from the Volkswagen ID3. As for the range figure for today, worst conditions definitely for the electric vehicle. So today more like 300 kilometers plus, 200 miles plus, which is more the official range of the small battery. However, then when you have better temperatures and more city traffic and so on, then you can also more go towards this 300 miles plus and close to 500 kilometers as for the big battery, the official figure. And something in between will probably be then the truth after all. I think it has great potential. It's a great offering. Prices, for example, in Germany, ranging from about 37,000 euros to 60,000 euros. Small battery to big battery, low trim to high trim. So I think it is a very good offer overall when the software is fixed. That's our conclusion for today. I hope you tune in next time and leave us your comments to the new ID4. Really looking forward to that.